Okay, sorry about that. My microphone was a bit uh, too far. Okay, so I'm gonna start over. This is second my second tutorial on Photoshop. The first one was about a year ago, and ever since then I keep getting requests to make another one. So here it is. And I know I said my next stream is going to be on Twitch, and the gameplay stream is actually going to be on Twitch. But this is not really a stream, it's more like it's a tutorial that I'm just doing live in case you guys will have any questions so you can ask them at the end. It's gonna be really short because this is mainly about this is mainly something that people will watch after, like they're not something that they actually have to watch live, so that's why it's gonna stay kind of short. But I'm just doing it live in case you will have questions. And what I'm going to do today is I am going to uh if you have questions to the person in the comment, please keep them until after. I will leave time for questions because once I start the guide, I am going to use Photoshop and it's going to cover my whole screen, and for that reason I won't be able to read the chat during the guide. Like I'll pop into it just to make sure that nobody's spamming or anything, but I won't actually be reading all comments until the end because it's really hard to work on Photoshop and read it at the same time. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make myself a new simple logo and I am going to show some tips on how I do things, and I hope it will be any useful for you. Now, I'm not gonna do anything too professional. Like at the end, I am assuming the result is not something that you would use for a company or something like that, because I'm really trying to keep a level that I think all of you could do as well. So I'm trying to make something that is easy and good for beginners, so that's why it's not gonna be too awesome or too complicated, but at the same time it is going to be something that I am going to use myself, so it will be on my own things, so that means I think it's gonna be good enough to use it. So to the person asking about the Slate drawing on the screen right now, that's actually not by me. The carrot is, the Slate one is not by me, but I am gonna show you other things, so hopefully that will be good enough. So I'm gonna start now. Let me just see that it's working well. Okay, so you might see the OBS screen sometimes, or into the comments you will see this, but I'm gonna try to keep it mainly to the Photoshop window. Okay, so the first tip that I'm going to give is how to pick a font for your that will be matching to your purpose. So what I'm going to do is show you this is as an example. This is the name tags for Toontown. That the picture is actually in a really bad quality because that's what I could find online. But I'm going to count on the fact that you already know the fonts. So the reason I'm showing this is if I would show that to someone who never played Toontown and won't be able to see the name of the fonts, and then I'll ask them which one of those fonts in your opinion was the one that was made for Halloween. Most chances are that people will point into the real Halloween font, even without knowing that this is the one that was made for Halloween. if they won't point into this one, they will point into ones that are similar. One thing for sure, they won't point into the basic font, and they won't point into the practical font because those are pretty general. They're not really creepy and they're not saying Halloween in them. So what I'm trying to say is that when you make a font, when you pick a font, you want to pick something that will represent what you want to say. So when Disney wanted to say Halloween, they picked a font that is really sharp and has all of those turns in it and a lot of corners in it. So this is one way to say, hey, this is Halloween, and it's good enough for people to say this is the Halloween font even if they don't actually know, just by the look of the letters. So this is why the font you pick is really important for what you want to say. So if you, another example that I wanted to show is if I will show this into someone who never played Toontown and even just a kid, and I'll ask him which one of those fonts is matching better for the tunes and which one of those fonts is matching better for business robots. They're most likely going to tell you that the one at the bottom is matching for the robots, where the one at the top is better for the tunes. So that means that the shape of the letters really says something about what you want to represent. So the reason I'm telling you that is because you need to think about what you want to make the logo for. If you are making something that is related to Toontown, you will usually use a font that is, if you want to make something toony, you will use a font that is very soft. The corners are not really sharp. Everything is kind of soft and says something childish, something that is like a comic feeling. And if you wanted to make something that is more professional, you would go with more sharp edges and more natural font. And if you wanted to make something that is like fantasy or horror, you will go for something like the Halloween font that has a lot of thorns and in it. So what I'm going to do on this guide is I'm going to make a logo for my channel, which means I'm going to make something that is about tunes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use really soft letters and like round corners, nothing too sharp. So this was the first tip. Now before we continue, on this guide, since this is my second one and not my first one, I'm going to count on the fact that you probably watched the first one, which I know if you're watching this live, you probably didn't watch the first one yet. But if you're not watching it live, I suggest that you. Oh, oops! I just had something open. Sorry. Okay, so if you didn't watch the first one, if you're not watching it live and you watched, I suggest you watch the first one before watching this one, because on the first one I explained about how to do vector shapes on Photoshop, what is vector and how does it work, and I showed the tools and everything. So this was this is probably the best Photoshop tip I could ever give. And I'm sorry if I got confused for a moment from the music. It wasn't planned. So on this guide, I'm going to continue from where I stopped there. So I don't want to repeat the exact same things. Sorry. So if there is something that you didn't understand, it's probably because you didn't watch the first one yet. And I am going to repeat some parts of the first one because I want this one to be clear as well. But if there are parts that you feel like I didn't explain them enough, it's probably because they were on the first one. Okay, I'm just gonna look at the chat for a moment to make sure everything is okay. Okay, the screen is really blurry. Let me see if there is anything I can. Okay, you can go to the settings on the. Okay, my YouTube is in Hebrew, but so you will just probably have it in English. But you can go there and there is something that says quality, and you can check which kind of quality you want to watch. So if you see this blurry, you just change it. You can watch it on HD because I'm actually streaming on HD. Okay, so if you, it's supposed to fix it. I hope it does. Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, so I hope you got it working for now. And I'm gonna move to the next part, which is getting your own sketch. This is something that. Okay, so I'm glad you got it. Okay, now I'm not gonna look at the comments. Getting your own sketch. Okay, I am one of the only uh graphic designers that I personally know that doesn't have a graphic tablet. Now, I could probably get one if I wanted, but I tried it and it's really hard for me to use. So I'm gonna show what I do when I don't use a graphic tablet. So the first thing you wanna do is getting a sketch of what you wanna make. If you do have a graphic tablet, or if you're good with drawing with your mouse, you can just draw it on the computer. If you are not, you can do what I did, and I'm going to show it. Okay, so what I did is I took papers, I drew the logo that I wanted. As you can see, it's really not perfect. It doesn't need to be sharp. It doesn't need to be like, if you look at the toon face, his eyes are not the same size and everything. This is just a really basic sketch. But what I did is I made this on a paper. Then I scanned it into the computer. Now, as you can see, the scan is in a really good quality. That's because I fixed it. It wasn't like that. I only fixed it for the stream because in reality, it doesn't matter. If you don't have a scanner, another thing you do is even use a camera, even use your phone camera. So what you want to do is just put the paper, I suggest put a paper in front of the camera. So you should either hang it on a wall or let it, like put it above something straight so it will stand. Then use the camera to take a picture. Picture does not have to be in any good quality. It could be a really bad picture. It could be really bad lighting, anything. All you need to do is make sure that you are taking the picture from the front of the drawing and that you are able to see the lines. As long as you can see the lines, even if in bad quality, that. Now, I found that tip very useful for people like me who don't have a graphic tablet. So, as I said, you could also make it on, if you do have a tablet or if you're good with your mouse, you can make it straight on the computer. You don't need to scan it or take a picture. Now, as you can see on the design I chose, I was going for really round and soft letters, and just to a random drawing of my toon. I picked something very basic. I want you to see that this is something that every kid could do. Like just drawing the letters. You're doing this in your class when you're bored. This is really easy. Anyone can do that, and that's why I went for something so simple. And I'm gonna show you how to turn that into something that looks much more professional because it will be digital. So, the reason I think you should sketch, obviously you could use pre-made fonts for the text. That's definitely possible. But the reason I'm making my own is that I like I want to have my own rights on my text. I want it to be unique. I want it to be my handwriting. It's something that I made, and no other channel is going to have that. So if you use a sketch that you made, even if it's very simple, it's still going to be unique because you made it, and nobody else is going to have their phone looking exactly the same. And another reason I do that is because when you download phones, you usually, even if they are free, they might be free just for some users, not for all users. And you just download a lot of phones, and 1 year later you want to use the phone. You don't know if you're allowed to use it for anything or if it's limiting to only personal use or things like that. So this is a good solution. I make my own letter. I own the rights for my own logo, so I don't owe anything to anyone. So this is just a really good way to make things. Obviously, if you are going to need to make a lot of words, you might not want to do it that way always. But if you're just making a logo, some letters, this is a nice way to do it. Obviously, what I'm gonna do with the letters, you can do with the drawings, do with anything you sketch. Um, anything you sketch on paper or on the computer, it doesn't have to be necessarily text. I'm just gonna put in the comments. Okay, do you guys have a problem with sound? How about now? Is it better now? Also, let me know. Did you hear what I said, or do you want me to repeat? Because I noticed that the microphone was a bit too far from my mouth again. Okay, I'm really bad at these things. I'm just not used to use a headset. This is kind of new for me. So I keep having it going too far from my mouth. Okay, do you want me to repeat, or are you okay if I keep going? I'm not sure when it was that you stopped hearing me. So like when on what part I should repeat, but I'm gonna quickly repeat in case you didn't hear. What I said is that you could use a pre-made font if you wanted. You don't have to use your own letters, but okay, you got it all. Okay. So just gonna quickly say, I'm using my own letters because I feel like this way I make something unique that nobody else is going to have. And thankfully this was not the important part of the guide, so good thing I checked the chat and you can now hear me better. Okay, so the next part is turning your text into vector shapes. Now, making vector shapes is something that I explained on the first guide. So on this guide, I'm not gonna repeat it too much, but I am going to show you, um, I am going to repeat at least a few parts of it because I want this guide to be clear as much as possible. So the first thing you want to do is you want to use the pen tool, which is right over here. I'm going to name things when I can because I know that the screen resolution on those details might be really tiny. So if you use a different version of Photoshop, this is CS5. If you use a different version, you might have different locations for the tools, but all tools should be there somewhere. So if you can't find a tool, you can just Google it and you will find it. Okay, for the pen tool, the one thing you want to do is make sure that this option is the one marked. It's called shape layers. Make sure you don't use the option called paths, you use the option called shape layers. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a close up to the letters so they can be big, because the bigger it is, the easier it's going to get. As you can see, the letters are pretty simple, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the pen tool. When you use the pen tool, if you use you just click, you will have pointed corners, like they will be really sharp. So that's not what we want. By the way, you can pick any random color. At this point, it really doesn't matter. I picked slate blue, not purple. But if you want to make round shapes, you want to click it and drag it as you still click. So I'm still clicking the mouse and I just drag it till you see those handles coming out. Now I have one dot and I'm gonna keep making dots, and I'm gonna try, and I don't know if you can see the path on the video because it's small, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make dots on the spots that I feel that I need them. The less dots you made, the better result you will get, because things will be more sharp. So you don't want to make more than what you need, but at the same time you don't want to make less than what you need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep tracing over, and if it's not exactly accurate, don't worry, because this is fixable in a minute once we finish. So what you want to do is you want to keep going until you get the shape as close as you can to the original one. Now at this point you see this is covering my path, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the opacity of the layer temporarily so I can see the path under it. Okay, at this point I'm gonna fix in a minute. And I close the path. Now the next thing I want to do is picking the white arrow. If you tool, you can see there is a white and a black one. They are both useful. Right now I need a white. I click the path and then I can see the dots that I'm not sure if you can see on the screen. They are almost invisible, but they are actually there. And what I say is once I click a dot, I can see the handles of this dot. And then what I can do is fix it to make sure the letter looks as sharp as possible. It doesn't have to be exactly on the lines because the lines were not really straight to start with. So technically it could be really different, I could make changes as I go with the pad. Like for example, this part I don't like it on the pad, so I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna place a plain color layer on there, and then I'm gonna play with the visibility of it. So when I want to see the pad, I make it invisible. When I don't want to see it, I make it like that. Now I'm gonna lower it down to make sure that it's sharp. Now as you can see, it's not really sharp. It's not really smooth. So I'm gonna keep playing with it until I feel like it looks good enough. Now the pen tool is something that you might want to play with a bit before you can get it straight. I use this tool for a long time, so it might seem kind of easy when I do that, but it's really just a matter of practice. The more you do it, the better you will get in it. Okay, I'm not gonna spend forever fixing things completely because I don't want this to be too boring because I have a lot of letters to make. So this is the current letter I have. I still see some parts that are not smooth, parts that are not smooth enough for me, but I'm gonna fix that later because this is the good thing about using vector shapes is that I can keep editing it as much as I want. And another cool thing is that I can actually resize it without to lose any quality, which is something you can only do with vectors. You can resize it, you can edit it as much as you want, and it stays editable. And I'm gonna check the chat again because I feel like I did the microphone problem again. Okay, I think that's okay. So, what I want to do is I want to repeat what I did here on the next letters. This is gonna take me a few minutes maybe. I'm gonna try and do that fast. Now, normally you might want to make all of those shapes on the same layer. If you want to do that, when you use the pen tool, you make sure you use the second option, which is add to shape area. And this means that the new shape I will make will be on the same layer. Now for this guide, I don't want to do this. I want each letter to be on a different layer because I want to play with them differently and I want to color them in different colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep making new shapes until I finish them. And I'm gonna try to do this quickly. This time I'm gonna use less dots because the less dots you use, the easier it's going to be to make it look smooth. So I did something like that, and now I'm gonna play with it to make sure it will match. Now, as I said before, it really doesn't need to be exactly on the lines because I didn't make the lines straight to start with. I really just made them as guiding lines, so it's really not a big deal if it's not exactly in there as long as it looks good. So as you can see, this one I used less dots, so it looks more smooth. I still I kind of don't like the way I did this part on the sketch, so I'm gonna make this look more like an L. And let's So as you can see, I completely changed the shape from the sketch, which is something that I recommend doing because the sketch was not really good to start with. It was just something very basic that I did just to show you that anyone can do it. Okay, I have 3 more letters. And this one has a hole in it. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. Even though I showed it on the first vector guide, I'm gonna quickly show it again on this one. So I'm now in white color for there. Okay, so before I fix the path, if I want to make a hole, what I do is I'm making sure that I'm still on the same path, and I pick this option, subtract from shape area, and once it's marked, I am making a new shape inside, and it's actually making a hole on the first one. Now I'm gonna get rid of the first sketch and I'm gonna design it to look better than the sketch. More equal, but not exactly equal on both sides because it's supposed to be more freestyle. As you can see, they are not exactly the same size. I'm gonna fix that after. It really doesn't matter at this point if they are on the same size or not. So don't worry. This one I made a sketch really bad. Because I really wanted to show how much you can play with the pen tool and not just go with whatever the sketch is saying. Okay, this was a really bad path to start with, and I'm gonna show you how easy that is to fix. I know this is like the most boring part, so I'm sorry for that. Good thing my name is kinda short, so it's only 5 letters, so that's good. As for the draw, that to the end, see if we will have time for it, because it's like the less important part. Because you pretty much do it similar to what you do with the letters, except you're doing it with a few parts instead of all in one shape. I'm gonna try to be quicker. Okay, so we are done with making the pads. I'm just gonna quickly check the chat again. The color is not appearing on your letters. Okay, I said we will do questions at the end, but I'm just gonna quickly repeat that when you use the pen tool, make sure you use this. It's called shape layers and not pads. Look at the corner at the top. For me, on my version, it's at the top left corner when I'm on the pen tool. For you, it might be a different location if you use a different version, but it should be somewhere on the tool settings. It's really important that you use this when you make the pads, or else you will just have invisible pads that are not even making a layer on the layers window. So you really want to make sure that you have this. Okay, after I did this, next step is I'm going to try and make sure the letters are about the same size, because I feel like they are kind of not. So I'm gonna resize them, and because I kept this vector, I don't have to worry about making them bigger, because I am not going to lose any quality when I resize them. So now I'm gonna put some spaces between them, and I'm gonna put more spaces than what I actually want. You don't have to do this, but for what I want to show in the guide, I'm gonna need it like that. Of course, they're still half transparent, so I'm gonna put the opacity back to 100%. Have each letter on a different layer. I feel like this one is too thin compared to the others, so I'm gonna try to fix it just a tiny bit more. Make it work better with the others. Okay. Okay, so as you see, I already have my own letters that are now looking good because they are on the computer and they are not made by hand. So this is a good way to start. But this is far away from the final result. So the next part is designing your letters. On this part, I'm gonna show you how I am going to design my own letters. You don't have to use the same way. You can use your own style. In fact, it's better if you don't do exactly what I did, because you want to be original. You want it to be your work, and I'm just gonna show you what I am going to pick. You don't need to pick the same things, but you can get ideas from it, which is the important part, because I want to show you ideas of what you can see with the letters. Having another problem here that I want to fix. Okay, this one, the first one, probably gonna edit it after the stream to look more straight, but okay. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick colors. I am going to do each one of those in a different color. But you can do all of them in the same color, it doesn't matter. Now to change the color of a vector shape layer, I'm gonna double click on the layer icon, and I will have this where I can pick any color I want. Don't go with neon colors because this is usually not very nice to look with the eye. So try to go with things that has a bit of a pastel shade in them if you're going for something bright. Like don't do this because this usually most of the times it's not a good choice. Sometimes it is. As I said, it really depends on what you want to make, but I'm gonna do something more relaxing. This I'm gonna use this because I already have an idea for it, and actually I wanna do just a tiny more on because I don't like this part. Okay. With this, I'm gonna go for something yellow. As I said, I'm not gonna go into the most bright yellow because I don't want it to look like that. And this I'm gonna keep it slate blue for now. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly look at the chat. Make sure it's okay. Okay. So for the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn each letter into a little drawing. Now, when you make your own things, you usually don't want to do this on every single letter. Like you want to do this on either the first letter or some of the letters. You don't want to do it on every single one most of the time because you don't want your logo to be too busy. But for the guide, I want to show you as many ideas as possible. So I'm gonna do all of the letters, and gladly I have a short name, so it's not gonna be too hard. Now I'm just gonna show you random ideas that I had in mind. I am not sure if they will actually look okay at the end, but because I only have them in my head at the moment, but this is a good time to start and test it together. Hopefully it will end up looking good. Obviously you don't want to do the same ideas, but I hope that my ideas will give you a way to think of ideas of your own, like an inspiration. So I'm just gonna show you how easy it is, like to do something that is really going to be simple. It's really not going to be any complicated drawings, and it's still gonna look really cute at the end. As I said, for your own logo, you might wanna just do it on one or two letters. If you look at the TDR logo or the original Toontown logo, for example, you can see that not all letters are actually drawings. You have most of them just shaped in a crazy shape, but they are mostly yellow, and then there is like the all letters are either a gear or toon eyes. So this is kind of the idea of what I'm going to try here. Like pick the letters you want and apply a drawing on them. Now, because I want to keep some letter shape even after the drawings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a style effect on the letters that I prepared before the stream, something that I like. But I'm gonna give you some. I'm gonna show you how I did it actually. So what you do is you pick the layer you want, and you click on the FX key at the bottom of the layer. Or I think if you double click the layer itself quick enough, it also opens it. And this is the layer style window. what you can do here is you can use all of these options and play with your settings to add effects to your letters. So for example, if I do okay, you might want to click a different layer before if you see the pad, so that you won't see the pad, because it's better when you can see it when you want to do when you want to test effects. So if I click the stroke, it's adding a black stroke. I can obviously play with the settings. I can make it more thick or less. The second option is pattern overlay, where I can apply things on the test. This is a pattern I made. It was actually, I think it was made for the Toonfest tower. I'm not totally sure, but I think so. You will have some pre-made ones to choose from. I just have a lot of ones that I made myself. This is the gradient option. This is, you can choose many of them. You can click it if you want to change the colors, if you want to add things into it, and I mean, it's really about plain and seeing. You can also play with opacity, so that you can make it look like the gradient doesn't have to be like that. It could be like half transparent. You could use blending modes, which is this, and most settings have blending modes, and you can play with them to change the effects. On the patterns overlay, you can also play with them and with the opacity, so you can have a lot of different options. Another thing is color overlay. That's gonna just color the whole thing. It's really good if you're not using a vector shape and you wanna color the whole thing. You can just use color overlay. You can pick the color, you can change opacity, you can change the layer modes. Once again, this is okay. This option is a bit hard to explain because you really have to play with it in order to get it. But once again, you just play with the settings and with the colors. Now, one thing I did use in here is bevels. I'm not gonna use global light because I want the light to come from where I want it to. And what I did is I just played a lot with the settings until I got into this result. Other than that, you have inner shadow, which you can either do this or you can change into center and do this. Outer glow, which is pretty much, it's like the inner one, but it's outside, but you can see it because the background is white. Inner shadow and drop shadow. So I'm not gonna show you all of them because you really have to play with them in order to get them. So I'm just gonna show you what I did pick eventually. Is I did this stroke. Those are my settings in case you wanna have the same settings in my. I did this. I did those settings on the bevel, and I marked this, but I didn't change anything here. I just marked it, and I did some basic drop shadow. So I'm now gonna right click the shape and I'm gonna pick copy layer style, and then I'm gonna mark them all with holding shift and then clicking, and right click and paste layer style, and now they all have the same settings. Now, one thing about those settings is that you can have them, the settings I picked, you can have them looking more white on some colors and more yellow on the other colors. So this is something you can change each letter to match the color you picked. So I'm gonna use this one, and I want it to be less white here, so I'm just gonna lower the opacity of white on the letters where I feel that it's too white. In fact, I might just apply it to all letters and see what happens. Okay. Yeah, that looks good enough. Okay, so I did this because giving an outline is something that I like for childish feeling and for making drawings, I feel like it gives a really good kid feeling into it. I'm just gonna pop into the chat to make sure it's okay. Okay, that seems fine. And now I'm gonna move into the more fun part. So, on. Okay. So I'm gonna start with this letter, though you don't have to do them by any order, go in a random order, but I'm gonna go with this one first anyway. So what I'm going to do with this one is, if you are playing TDR long enough, you might have seen the spinning top on Winter. And what I did there is I turned the letters into little snakes, which is an idea I actually had for my logo, but then I didn't never had time to make my logo, so I just used the idea for the spinning top because it worked well there. So I'm just gonna repeat the idea here and actually show you how I did it. So I'm gonna turn this letter into a snake. First thing you wanna do is you wanna put an eye or two eyes on it, because this is like when you wanna give something a personality, put eyes on it first. Once it has eyes, it has a personality, and then you just need to design it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pre-made circle tool, which is vector obviously, and I'm gonna hold shift when I do it so that it will be round. And I'm just gonna pick a random size that I feel like would fit the eye. Now I want this to be known with no opacity, and I want it to be white and have a stroke that is the same stroke as this, and I actually want to have a shadow for it, and I want it to be the same shadow that I applied here. So I'm going to go here and check the settings I did on a drop shadow, and barely changed anything on the basic settings. So I'm just gonna apply it here, change this, and I think that's it. Looks like it. Okay, so now I'm gonna give him a little circle inside the eye on black so that it will look more like an eye. You could do better than that if you wanted it to be a toon eye. I'm just going for a regular eye, and you don't want to put that circle exactly at the middle because that's usually not looking well. You wanna put it on somewhere point at the side or at the bottom or at the top, wherever you want him to look at. And you can see he already starts looking like a real snake. Now another thing I want to give him is I want to give him a tongue coming out so it will look more snaky. So I'm gonna use some shade of red for it, and I'm gonna use the pen tool and just make the shape. It doesn't need to be any perfect. It's really something that I feel like any kid could do this. And of course I don't want it to be above, so I layer order to put it under. And I'm gonna copy the style I used for the eye circle and apply it in here. Or in fact I want this light to be applied on it as well, so I'm gonna copy from the letter itself, and now you see there is a tiny light here. I don't know if you can see it. See this tiny bit of pink. So now he looks more like a snake. I'm gonna play with this to make it less thick, maybe. Okay, and another thing I want to add to him is I want to add some stripes in here because I want to show you uh, a nice way to do it. So I'm going to use the pen tool again, and I'm going to make a shape. And now I'm going to use this that I told you about earlier, which is add to shape area, and then I can use more than one square on the same layer so I can treat them the same. I'm gonna right click on it and choose create clipping mask, which is something I showed on the first vector guide. So I'm just gonna do this again, and it's applied into the snake shape, so now I can move it and have it looking inside the snake. So now I'm gonna take this and edit it a bit. I could apply the triangles their own style if I wanted, but I don't really think they should have any style. Like, I don't want to push it too much. So I'm just gonna fix their shape a bit. Let's see. This is what I have so far. I feel like you could have more than this. So I'm just gonna quickly do that because I don't want you to get too bored. So I can use Control C and Control V, and then when I move the shape, it's actually doubled. So because I copy pasted it. So that's an easy way to make another one without to actually go on pen tool again. And as you can see, I am moving these shapes. I'm using the black path selection tool. Once again, the reason I'm not staying too much on explaining those tools is because I already explained it on the other guide, so I don't want to just repeat it too much. Let's see. It's like, okay, I'm gonna keep him like that for now, but I'm probably gonna fix him a bit more after. Now I don't want it to be red, so I'm going to quickly color it what will look good. Be some kind of blue. I don't want it to be too noticeable, so that's why. Okay, I'm gonna keep it like that. So now I have the first letter, and I'm gonna move to the next one. Now, another thing that you might want to do is name your layers so you won't get confused. I am really used to that because I'm really messy. But if you're new to this, it's really important that you name them so that you won't get lost. Okay, what I'm gonna do with this one is I'm gonna turn this. I use this color. I don't know if you recognize the color, but this is actually the big magnet color. Because I was thinking, what can I do with the L? And since it's really round one, I'm gonna try and make this a magnet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the square vector tool. I'm gonna make a square. And then I'm gonna use this, the move tool, and make sure that you use show transform controls because it's much easier that way. I'm gonna create a clipping mask again, and I'm gonna place it. Then I'm going to duplicate it as I did with the triangles. And locate it. It's not going to look perfect because the sides are not equal, so I'm just doing the best possible. Now I'm gonna color it on the right color. Starting to look like a magnet. Now one thing I want to do is I want to add the magnet filling by adding some lightning. Just gonna quickly check the chat to make sure. Okay, that's okay. I'm just making sure there is no spam or any bad words, so that's why I keep checking. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make some lightnings to give a more magnet feeling for someone who maybe doesn't play Toontown. So what I'm gonna do is I'm really going to make some really basic shape that you can see it's literally taking a few seconds, and anyone can do this. You can do this. Use yellow for them. And then I'm just gonna duplicate it with copy paste. Change it to maybe not be the exact same proportions. And then I'm gonna duplicate both of them using shift. I'm making this side a bit smaller. The reason I'm doing this is because this side is going to have a letter and I don't want that letter to end up being too far. So I want to be able to make it closer. Okay. Let's see what we have so far. I'm going to apply to the lightnings the same thing I did with the tongue by copy pasting the style. Okay. And now I'm gonna move on to the next one. As I said earlier, I'm just giving you random ideas on what you can do with letters. You can get your own ideas, so you don't have to do what I'm doing. But this is just to inspire you to think, to realize you can do anything with it. You really don't have to go for like it's. You can be really creative with ideas. So if you have an idea in your mind, you can probably make it reality, and it's really easy. It's really not that hard. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I don't know if it's actually going to look good. I'm just having an idea in my head. So I'm gonna try and apply it. If it ends up looking bad, of course you can always delete and make a new idea. Okay, I don't know if that's going to work. Like the red is a bit too much. Now because this shape is much smaller, I'm gonna change the settings because the bevel is too strong on it, so I'm gonna make it more like that. So if you're working with it's also too bright. If you're working with different size of shapes, you should apply the settings. You should fix the settings if they are like getting too much on some of the shapes or not enough on the others. And now I'm gonna, you know what I'm doing, right? Like it does look like it. Or am I really, really bad at drawing? You know, I'm just gonna do some. And I'm gonna reduce the white on this even more. Too much the other. Okay, let's see. We've got. Oh, it doesn't look as good as I did it to. I feel like this could do some work after the stream, and I'm not too sure. I'm gonna try a more of a roof color because this is not looking like one. Oh, okay. Now another thing you could do is you could apply a pattern of a roof at this part, for example. I'm not gonna do that on this because I don't want it to not match the other letters. But if you're only working with one letter, this is something you can do. I don't like the result of the roof. No. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to this after the stream and fix it. But you get the point. So I'm gonna move to the next one. Now, what I want to do at this one is I want to change the shape a bit to match the idea that I have on my head. Let me just look at the chat quickly. Okay, that's okay. So what I want to do is I want to turn this into something else. So I'm going to change the shape. Into something a bit more pointy. I feel like I'm missing a dot here. Okay, and I want to be kind of well here. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do, now that it's a pointy T, I'm going to make a new shape. That is something like that. Going to color it. Okay, I messed up something here, but it's not important as long as it's not on the part that you can see. I could actually just put a square here, but I just wanted this part to like. Okay. And I'm gonna add a stroke. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some green. Okay, sorry if this part is kind of boring. I'm just trying to get the shape right. It's done. Okay, this will also get some better work after the stream. But it is, okay, it didn't turn out like I expected. Because I'm kind of trying to make it fast. So I'm gonna fix it after. I might not make this outline like after. And, don't annoying noises. And last thing I want to do is I want to add to the carrot some triangles as well to give a more carrot feeling. So I'm just gonna do something really quick. And I'm not gonna spend too much time on fixing them because I just want to show the idea. I'm not really into fixes because I don't want you guys to get too bored. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this into a dark orange. I'm going to this on. Okay, that looks better. Okay, I'm just gonna pop into the check. Second. Yeah, I know there is too much space between between the letters. As I said at the beginning, this is on purpose so I can make the drawings, and after that I'm gonna make them closer. So this is just I'm gonna move them after. And really cute idea. I don't know if it will work, but I'm going to try. Um, I'm going to try to look this letter, which is a bit hard to think about a good idea with, into a slate blue rabbit. How am I gonna do this? I have some idea in mind. I'm gonna copy the same eye I used for the snake, so to let you see what I'm doing. I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna move it. I'm moving it with the arrow key and shift, which is a bad way of moving when you go such a long distance, but I'm doing it anyway because that's just me. And I keep checking the microphone to make sure it's not down again. Okay, so let's say that he has an eye. Doesn't look like a rabbit. The main thing a rabbit would need is ears, so I'm gonna make him ears at this point. I'm gonna color them at the same color. And I'm gonna duplicate the layer and move to give him two ears. See the proportions. Of course, it's not going to look like a real rabbit because it's a letter, and I want people to be able to say this is a letter. But it's gonna have a touch of a rabbit, which is what I want. So you can say, hey, this is the channel of Slate Blue Rabbit. So next thing I'm gonna do to add into the rabbit filling is rabbit teeth. In fact, I'm gonna, instead of duplicate the whole layer, I'm gonna duplicate the shape and move it so I can control the gap. And we don't want giant teeth, even though he's a rabbit. It's that. Okay, so I'm gonna play a bit with the location, though I'm not fully happy with the location, but we will work on it after the stream. And I feel like it kind of looks like a letter with the rabbit filling. Now another thing I could add to him would be a rabbit nose and a mustache. I think that's how you say it. So he would be more of a rabbit, and maybe another eye behind this one to make him look a bit less flat. But anyway, this is just the basic idea. I'm not gonna do the fixes on this stream as I said because I don't wanna make it too long. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a group and group each letter because it has more than one layer, so it's easier for me to move them when I don't have a giant layers list here. So when they're a group, it's working better. And once again, I'm going to encourage you to name your layers. I'm not gonna waste your time by naming my layers right now, but in general, you should definitely have them named. Okay, now that I have each one in a different group, I'm going to move them to get the right gaps between them. So it will look more like a word. I feel like this is too close. If you make them too close, people might not be able to see the gaps when you resize it. So now that I've finished everything, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all of the groups and I'm gonna right click and choose convert to smart object. The reason I am doing this is because the good thing about vector, as I said, is that you can resize it as much as you want without lose quality. But the problem is, not just with vector but with any layers, is that if you resize them, your layer style are not getting resized. So I'm just gonna show you what happens if I resize it as it is. You see how the effect is not being resized, so you see what happens. It doesn't look good. It looks too... I'm gonna show you what happens to the effects. They stay made for big letters, well the letters are actually small, so you prevent that. You take the whole list of groups or layers, or even if it's just one, you right click, you do convert to smart object, and now this is all just like one group. And if I resize it, the styles will get resized as well. So now if I make it small, you can see it keeps the effects similar to what they were. And it still keeps the quality even if I make it bigger. So this is a good way because you will want to resize it. Now that it's grouped, as you can see, it doesn't look like a real group, so you can see the layers in order to change them. So what you can do, click the smart object, get into a new window, you can see, and the new window has just the smart object, and here you can see the groups that I had before. I can still edit everything, I can change details, I can move things. Then I just close it, I click save changes, and I didn't change anything, but if I would, it would apply here. So what I can do now is I can resize it as much as I want without to lose quality, which is really important because you're going to want, especially for something like a logo, you're going to want it on different sizes and different locations. So this is a really good way to do that. I'm just gonna check. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is to show you how I do the same thing I did with the letters with a small drawing, which is By the way, I'm using those screens so that I can make a quick menu after. So this is like marking points on the menu. So sorry if it's annoying or anything. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring back the first sketch I had. So you see how I turned these very simple letters that anyone can draw into this, which looks much better than the awful sketch I had. And it was actually really easy. So what I have left is this slate drawing. It's a really bad drawing, really bad proportions. That's on purpose because I wanted to show you that it doesn't matter if you are good at it or not. You can be really bad and still do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new group for the drawing. And I'm gonna start making the shapes on separate layers, and then I'm just gonna change the effects on each one. So I'm gonna make the drawing match the text because I don't want it to look out of space. Because I want it to go with the logo. Of course, you don't need to do that when you make drawings. You don't need to make them like text. You can use any styles that you think that will match your drawings the best way. But if you are going to add it to the logo, you want to make something that will look kind of matching. So what I'm going to do first is I'm gonna go back into making things half transparent so I can see what I'm doing. Now, if you are really good at drawing, unlike me, this can be a really cool option for you because you get to, if you don't have a graphic tablet, do the drawings in real life and then just turn them into a computer drawing. Now the things I'm doing, as you can see, I'm going really out of line. That's because I wanted to match the handles to what I'm going to need at this point. If you're bad with the pen tool or if you're new with it, it might take you longer to move it the way I do. So you might just practice on it a bit before you do it exactly the way I do, so you can do it in any way that is easier for you. Now, hold on. One more thing you can do with a pen tool, which I think I already explained on the vector guide, is that if you hold Alt, you can move one handle without moving the other one. So that's really an easier way to get more accurate on what you want to do. Okay, now that I finished the face part, I'm gonna make it invisible and start doing the other parts. And then at the end, I'm going to combine them all together. So as I said, it doesn't matter what colors you pick when you do it. I'm going to try and pick colors similar to the final result just for the guide. Now if I wanted both sides to be equal, I could just copy paste it, which is a good thing if you make something and you can see that both sides are not on the same size. You can duplicate one side into the other. and then you can just flip it. And I'm gonna fix the locations at the end when I actually, or I can do it now. Okay, the ears are not too equal either, but I kind of like it that way because in real life things are not really symmetrical. So if you wanted them to be symmetrical, you could combine the other side, but I think when things look exactly the same on both sides, that's natural. So I prefer them being a bit different. Now, for the eyes, another thing you could do if you feel like you made this part bad is that paste real toon eyes in here, trace them like you do with a sketch, like even from a screenshot. Have a screenshot, open it, paste it here on a new layer. Take the shape of the eyes. I'm not gonna do it right now because I don't have any shape ready. But you can do the shape of the eyes and then get rid of the layer, and then you can keep working with your sketch. So what you do with the sketch, you can also do with screenshots or anything if you want to take a shape that you feel like you can't make on your own. Now I'm pretty much gonna do just one eye because the eyes are really different from each other. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make one eye, and I'm gonna try and make it like a real eye shape and not like the drawing. And I'm gonna keep working on the eye after because I want to finish a few more things from the sketch. So the eyebrows I want to make on black. For this I don't want any effects, just black. Okay, for the inner part of a toon eye, you would usually just make another shape for the eyelid and do a clipping mask again. And now this part. Okay, I won't spend too much time to make it perfect, so you won't get bored. But I'm just gonna make something that looks nice at least. Okay. So the parts I have so far. I'm gonna copy this eye into the other side. Um and then when I copy it, I am gonna flip it, and what you can see is with the eyes you have this part directly to the other side, which I think that's actually how they are in the game, but this is not how real life work. So if you want it to look better, you make sure that both of those are directly into the same side because that's look more realistic. So you could follow the Toontown way and make it to the other side, but you probably don't want to. So I'm gonna fix the position for this part at the end. And now I'm going to create this part. It's gonna pop into the chat form. Okay. So what I do here is this part, I don't really like how I did it on the sketch. So I'm mainly just gonna do this more for my head. And once again, I don't want it to look exactly the same on both sides because I don't think that's not how real life. If you do things too symmetrical, you might end up looking like you had some automatic thing drawing it for you. So you want to make something that will look less awkward and not too similar on both sides. Obviously, that's not a color. Okay, the thing I usually do at this part is I take the real colors from the real toon screenshots and I use it as a color palette with this tool over here, eyedropper tool. Right now I don't have it, so I'm just using random colors that I think will match. Now I'm gonna make this part invisible so I can work on those parts. Actually, I'm gonna make it transparent instead so I can see the shape. Okay. Okay, so this is what I want to take from the sketch. The rest I want to make by myself. So I'm gonna get rid of the sketch and bring back those parts because I feel like the sketch will this point and this point I prefer doing my own things. Okay, so I'm gonna add his teeth first and only then his mouth because I think the mouth should match it. And then we will add some effects to match it to the text. So, as I know my rabbit very well, the teeth are usually in game, covering the the whole neck, so you don't even see the neck. So they are actually kind of big. Okay, I'm not totally uh going to get this part because usually it takes more time with fixes. But I'm gonna see how well I can get his smile on this stream. And now I'm gonna fix it. I feel like this is not the right brown, so don't mind the color. I feel like the whole mouth is a bit too long, so I'm gonna fix that later. What I want to do is something like that. Okay, so I did it now. Okay, I'm gonna. Yeah, characters are not really my thing, so it's not gonna look too good. But the reason I'm making him anyway is because I want to show you the tools you can use and things you can do. So you can do it yourself because you're probably going to be better at drawings at first place than me. But I'm mainly just showing the proxies and not actually the drawing abilities that I don't have. Now I'm gonna give him those tricklets. Why made them on the same layer? That's not what I want. See what we so far. Okay, since he's on a group, I can move. Now, usually you would not want the toon face to be at the same color as this if the rest of the letters are not, because this is like the same color being too close to each other. But this is just for the tutorial, so it's not a big deal. Now what I want to do is apply effects like I did here into him. Now a good way to do that would be go back into the group and take the exact same effect I used here and just paste it in here. Now this is going to make him look like the letters, so if this was just a drawing you would not want to do that. But if you want them to work together, then this is a nice way to start. Now I'm not going to apply it on every single part because I don't want this on the eyebrows, for example, or the pupils. Like I want to make this kind of only where it's needed. Okay, so now I have some badly made slate that is matching the logo, and I'm gonna make him a smart object as well, so I can resize him without lose quality, as I said. And if I wanted to make him look more like a drawing, I'm gonna copy the group to show you some things that I would change. Definitely his base. I don't want it to like letters, so if this was a drawing I would use a total different shading system, which is first it will be more soft, probably not with this option, and it could have some gradient that is like things like that, or he could have bevel with much softer settings. Things like that. The shading system I used, in fact you don't even have to use this at all. You can like, if I cancel the bevel I can use even raster shading, like even just a brush would work here and make it a darker shade of this. And I could go like this and just make a clipping mask. This is obviously a really bad quick example because I'm not actually gonna shade him right now, but just to show you some basic option. I'm gonna make him bigger so you can see. So there are many ways to shade it, so don't feel like you need to do what I did here, because that's definitely not what you would do for drawings. And that's pretty much it for what I planned to show on the tutorial. I feel like it took me just how long? Oh god, I am doing this for almost 2 hours. That's totally not what I planned. Okay, someone will have to watch it on skipping parts, so that's what I said. You should probably not watch it when it's live because there are some boring parts that you would want to skip in reality, but the reason I did this live is because I wanted to leave you guys some time for questions. So I'm gonna look back at the comments now, and if you guys have any uh questions or comments, mainly questions about what I did, if you want me to uh go in a deeper in explanations on some parts, or if you have any question on something that wasn't clear enough when I explained, because I really want to make sure that it's explained in the right way. What do you think is the best drawing you've ever done? I honestly have no idea because I am not I am not drawing usually. Like as a graphic designer, I usually do other things that are not drawings, as in designing things, texturing, things like that, and drawing characters is actually something that I consider myself being really bad at, which is why I found the vector option kind of making my life easier, because it's not really a drawing. Technically, you draw it on a paper and you just scan it, or you just make a sketch and then you trace over it, so it's much easier. Vector graphics, is it called? Yes, I use tools that are called vector. And if you have more questions about vector, there is the first tutorial I made. The link is in the description of this video, and I recommend watching it because I really explained there about vector art much more than I did on this guide. And I feel like this is definitely the best gift I could give you if you want to use Photoshop. The vector tools are much underrated. Like, a lot of people don't use them on Photoshop, and they are actually super useful and making your life much easier. So I really recommend either watching the first tutorial I made, or if I am not clear enough for you, you can always watch tutorials online, like either on YouTube, or you can find text tutorials that will be more clear to you, just in case my explanation wasn't good enough. But I really recommend learning those tools because they're really useful. And I'm just gonna take a drink in case you have any more questions. But I'm kind of losing my voice here. I really didn't think it will take 2 hours. If you tried the guide and you want to show me the result, a good way to do that is I noticed that it's really hard to share pictures on Google Plus and on YouTube. It's not hard, but it's complicated, and I keep losing the notices. So things you can do in order to share pictures with me is, one option is you can go on Twitter, upload them, and just tag me, or upload them on a link and then just tweet it and tag me on Twitter, and then I will see it. Or the other option is I made a new email just for talking to you guys. So you can find the email at the description of this video, and you can email me either your drawings or if you have any questions or if you need help with anything. And another good way you could get help is really searching online because the internet is full of Photoshop tutorials. What would you say are your strong and weak points in graphic designing? My I think my weak point is definitely drawing characters. I'm really bad at that. If you couldn't tell by what I did on this tutorial. As I said, I really didn't try to teach you how to do drawings because I'm not even good at this to start with. So it was not a drawing tutorial. It was a tutorial on the process you could do that you can also apply to your drawings, but you you can use it for anything, and I use it mainly for letters and other things. So drawings is just one thing you can do with it if you're good at drawings, unlike me. So it's not like I tried to make a guide about something I'm bad at, but more like I tried to make a tutorial about a process and not about drawing skills. Will TDR be on Windows 8? I think it already is, and if you have questions regarding to TDR, you can ask them on my gameplay stream. Well, most of my streams are gameplay streams, so on most of them, this is really a good question to ask. But specifically, this one is more a tutorial and less of a stream. So, in my next gameplay stream, as I said, you could find it on my Twitch because I'm gonna try streaming there. Is the playback of the stream being saved? Yes, it is. Because on YouTube I know how to save the videos. So actually they're automatically saved most of the time. So yes, it's going to be saved. If it will be on Twitch, which is where my next streams might be, I'm going to record them and try to upload them to YouTube as well. Hopefully that's going to work. But this one is already on YouTube, so yes, it is available. Are you planning on working on any large-scale art projects? I am, I think TDR is a really large project, like it's much bigger than what you would think. And one thing I noticed is that whenever we test people into being graphic designers at a team, everyone are like, oh, I appreciate you now much more because I know what you're actually doing. Because this is really much harder than you would think. So it's the behind the scenes work on not just on art but or anything is really big. That I barely have time to take any other projects, but another thing I'm working on right now is I'm helping a Roblox game called Dodgeball, which is a new Roblox game and it's really popular apparently, much more than I expected. And it's made by my friend Alex, and I'm helping him texture for it as well. So if you want to check it out, there should be a link to it on my Twitch page. Other than that, I'm probably not gonna take any other big art projects because it's really hard to work on too many things at the same time. Okay, so I feel like this guide is getting like 2 hours, yeah, over 2 hours. Yes, I did talk about Alex Newton. So probably gonna finish it unless you guys have any quick questions before I do. Because hopefully I answered most of the things you could ask on the tutorial itself. Because apparently it took 2 hours. I thought it would be like half an hour, but no. And So if you have any really quick questions, I guess I could take them, but if not, then I'm probably going to finish. And yes, for the dodgeball game, I made most of the outfits there. Not all of them, but most of them. And I made the basic ones. So if you played it and you saw them, then I made them. Are people in testing now to help with the project? If you feel like you are able to help as a graphic designer, um, by the way, vector art is what we use when we texture for TDR. We try to make things as vector as possible on Photoshop. So the things I showed you on the first guide and some of the things I showed on this guide, this is actually what we use to texture for TDR. So if you have any plans on trying to fill an application to be an artist on TDR, those tools are a pretty good way to start if you want to practice, because this will give you an advantage, I assume, because you will already be familiar with the tools you will need for the test. And if you want to apply, we are actually taking new artists. So if you want to apply to the TDR team, you can send your application to the support email and make sure that you are including your portfolio, say what programs you are using. The main one, well, the only one that we use for graphics on TDR is Photoshop. So if you're good with this program, that's a good start. Include your portfolio, examples of what you did, and info about yourself. What is your name on the community, so we can, like, maybe we already know you, so we can recognize you and things like that. You will also get an answer when you send the application that will tell you exactly what details you need to include in case you didn't include all of them. So if you're not sure exactly what details to put, they will let you know. And then it will be transferred into the artist to look into it. So you actually do have a chance of getting in if you're good at it. What do you say are the qualities of a decent graphic designer? I think, in my opinion, I think with a bit of practice, anyone can do this, because it looks much harder than it actually is. Like the things I showed on the tutorial, I really try to focus on things that anyone can do, because I feel like if you had a program in front of you and you just follow the steps I did, you could do exactly what I did. So I picked easy things on purpose to start with, but once you practice, you will find out ways to do better even by yourself. Even if you, well, of course, if you wanted, there are a billion tutorials out there for Photoshop and you could find anything you want. But even without tutorials, I personally learned most of it by myself, just by testing things, just by doing things, and and just by pretty much trying it yourself and see what it does. And you will often find out that this tool is useful for something that you might have needed earlier or you might need in the future. So I feel like it's really easy to learn the more you practice. Yeah, okay, so for what art you use for texture, it's actually, we're not drawing in 3D. We're drawing on a flat image, just like you see me doing right now, and it's getting wrapped around the model. So we have 3D modelers making the model, and then we make the flat texture on Photoshop, and it's being wrapped around the model. So you might want to look for texturing videos online to see exactly what I mean. And if you know the channel of June from the TTR team, she actually made a page, a video showing how she textured the air balloon of Slappy. So you can really see what texturing is if you watch it, because it's really showing the two-dimension picture she made and how the final result is on the model. Did you miss the entire stream? Well, it was not really a stream, it was more like a tutorial that just happened to be live because I wanted to leave time for questions. And if you're looking for programs, even though Photoshop, which is what I use and it's probably the best program, even though it's not free, I know you can get a trial of it for free for like a month. And other than that, there is a program called GIMP. You can Google it. It's a free program and it's pretty similar to Photoshop. And there is something called website Photoshop, which I don't think it has the vector tools in it, but it has a lot of options that are similar to Photoshop, and it's actually inside a website. You can Google it to find it. And yes, I know a lot of people are using GIMP, even though it's not as nearly as good as Photoshop. It is definitely a good free program. I personally didn't use it, but I know a lot of people do, and they actually get some pretty cool results. So if you don't want to buy Photoshop, and if you don't want to get it in the non-legal way, you can always use this free program because it's really good. Okay, so I hope this answered all of your questions. If you have any more, you could always either comment them or contact me on either the email posted in the description or Twitter or anywhere that is easy to check private messages. Like, don't contact me on YouTube PM because it's kind of hard to see it. So I'm gonna finish this one. Before I finish the tutorial, okay, so I'm gonna finish this one, and before I finish, I just want to remind you that my next live stream is going to be on Twitch. You can find a link into my Twitch at the description of this video, and I already started playing with the options on Twitch, and I already like it because there are a lot of things that you can't do on YouTube. So hopefully you guys are going to prefer that as well. And there is a cool thing on Twitch that you can have an animation and and music playing when someone is following you, like if they're following during the live stream. There is a cool animation with music, so I actually got York, which is one of the composers for TDR, to make me my own music to play during that part, and it's really awesome. And if you were noticing earlier on this stream when random music was playing and I said it's because I left something open, that's the music York made for me. So it's really awesome. If you didn't hear it there, you will get to hear it on my stream on Twitch. And if you want your own music for your own stream, you can buy one from York for $15. You can find the details on the description of my stream page on Twitch. So if you click on my Twitch and check the description, you can find the details on how you could get your own. It was actually composed just for me, and I think that's awesome. Like for $15, I think it's really worth it. And other than that, I heard a lot of people are asking when am I gonna do my stream on Twitch. The answer to that is probably in 2 or 3 more days, because I just need to still finish the design for the Twitch, because I don't want it to look I want it to look different and more fun than my YouTube streams. So I want a layout and I want it to look better. So I'm still working on that. So whenever I finish that, I will make my first stream there. If you want to be alerted when it starts, you can follow on Twitch, and then it's supposed to send you an email whenever it's live. And another thing you could do is follow me on Twitter, and then whenever it's live, there should be a tweet about it. So either on Twitter or Twitch, if you follow, you will probably not miss the next stream, because it will let you know. So I think that's it for today. I'm really looking forward to see you guys on my next stream on Twitch, and I'm really looking forward to see what you guys made on Photoshop, if the tutorial was any helpful for you. So as I said before, if you want to send me your results, you should send them into my email at the description of this video, or you could post them on Twitter and tag me. So this is it for today. I really hope this was helpful for you. And there is if you guys liked it, if you watched it live or not, to the question, are the maps you're given good quality? You mean like the maps for the texturing? The maps for the new models are good quality. The maps for the old Toontown Toontown Online models that we making their textures on HD, they are really low quality, and we are making them from scratch. So it's a bit of a pain, but it's worth it because the result is so awesome. And we're mainly using vector tools like the ones I showed on my guides. So this was the last question, because I'm really losing my voice here. So I'm gonna see you on the next time, and if you like this tutorial or the first one and you want me to make some more, you can let me know either on the comments or on the email or tweet to me or whatever. Just let me know things you would like to see, and or if you would just like to see anything related in general. And if you guys will enjoy it, I will make more guides like that in the future, hopefully with a gap smaller than a whole year between one to the other. So I'm sorry it took me a whole year, but I will try to make it faster if you guys have any interest in it. And that's it for today's guide. You know where to find me if you need anything. And now I'm gonna finish. Tweet as in make a tweet and on Twitter and tag me. You can find my Twitter at the description of this video. If you tag me, then I will get to see it. Or I think there should be an option to send a private message there. I don't know, I barely understand Twitter, but you can try. So that's it for today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!